Now, let me tell you who's representing Colonel Conrad Reynolds, and maybe we can kind of figure out why Attorney General Tim Griffin didn't show up. So, first of all, Chris Corbett, who's a great attorney out of Conway. I've interviewed him a number of times at the old station. Second of all, former Wisconsin Supreme Court Justice Gableman. And third of all, and I wonder if Timmy even knows about this. I wonder if Timmy Letitia James Griffin even knows about the third attorney representing Conrad Reynolds and his claim to fame. A guy named Harry McDougald, and everybody was misspelling his last name, and I was wondering, is this the same guy that I've interviewed before? This attorney out of Georgia? Could it possibly be the same guy I interviewed a few years ago? And I was trying to Google. I was trying to DuckDuckGo, and it turns out he was the same guy, but everybody was misspelling his last name. It's a big M, little c, big D, Ougald. It's McDougald. Harry McDougald is the guy responsible for getting Dan Rather fired from CBS News. No, let me just tell you, because not everybody remembers that far back. George W. Bush was running for re-election for president in 2004. And Dan Rather did a story on the CBS Evening News with a copy of a letter purporting to have something to do with George W. Bush trying to not go into the military, trying to avoid military service during Vietnam. Remember that? Well, there was no Twitter, there was no Facebook, but there was a website called freerepublic.com that a lot of conservatives would go on and post about things. And so, we had the internet in 2004. And the networks, the news networks, had gotten to the point where they were posting stuff on the internet, and they made the mistake of posting what purported to be a letter having to do with George W. Bush trying to stay out of military service back during Vietnam. And you know what, CJ? I can't believe I forgot to bring in that folder from my desk. If you wouldn't mind getting that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. So anyway, Harry McDougald took a look at the screenshot of what was supposed to be a letter of George W. Bush trying to stay out of military service in Vietnam, and he said, wait a minute. That's kind of like a Microsoft Word font. That didn't exist in 1971. That didn't exist till decades later. So this has got to be a forgery. And he posted about it on freerepublic.com. Hey, I caught Dan Rather in CBS Evening News in a lie about the president running for re-election, claiming he tried to be a draft dodger back during Vietnam era. And lo and behold, one thing led to another, and CBS felt it incumbent upon them to fire the anchor of the CBS Evening News, Dan Rather. Now, if you're a young person, you might be thinking, what's the big deal? Because these days, you cannot name the anchors of all three network evening news broadcasts, ABC, CBS, NBC. You don't have to answer this on the air, but producer CJ, do you have any idea who anchors the ABC Evening News, the CBS Evening News, and the NBC Evening News? Any idea? Okay. I didn't think so. You know what? I might be able to name one of the three, maybe, if I really set my mind to it. But you're going to find this hard to believe, producer CJ, but back in the day, a lot of 20-year-olds could actually tell you because in their high school years, a lot of their parents would watch the evening news on one of the main networks at dinner time. And, well, that was then and this is now. So anyway, I don't think Tim Griffin knows what he's up against. I don't think he has any idea what he's up against. Well, it might have started to dawn on him. So here was the shock this morning. Conrad Reynolds was not charged with electioneering. They went to all this trouble to do a criminal indictment for Conrad Reynolds with a charge of loitering. Really? Hey, Timmy. Hey, Letitia James Griffin. How many other exit pollsters have you charged with loitering, Timmy? I'd love to know. Whoa, well, Doc, Conrad Reynolds is not a journalist. Oh, really? Do you have to be licensed to be a journalist, Timmy? Letitia? I mean, I remember what Patrick Henry said. No, I'm not quite that old. I wasn't here for it. Patrick Henry said, give me liberty or give me death. You know what that was about? That was about Great Britain saying that you had to have a license to be a minister of the gospel. Is Timmy Letitia James Griffin going to say that we can charge Conrad Reynolds with loitering because his exit polling doesn't count because he's not actually a bona fide journalist? Is that what y'all going to play? Because I'm going to tell you something right now. And it's embarrassing, Timmy, because I'm older than you, pal. I'm probably old enough to be your dad's younger brother, but a whole lot of the journalism is going on by citizen journalists on social media these days, Timmy. Did you know that? Like Twitter, like Substack, like, you name it. You don't have to be licensed, Timmy. So, yeah, I want to know. I want to know about this selective malicious prosecution where you can prosecute a good man who's just doing exit polling. So they figured out they better not charge him with exit polling, but they charged Dustin Black, his friend, with exit polling? What's that about? Now, I thought it might be interesting to see how some of the media here in Arkansas is covering this story. Updates? No. No, they might get around to updates eventually. But still. Let's see. What do we got here? Arkansas Democrat Gazette. And this was October 9th. Arkansas Attorney General Tim Griffin said Thursday his office has obtained warrants to arrest two men. Now, wait a minute. How come there was no mugshot of Conrad this morning at the courthouse in Batesville? You get arrested, there's no mugshot? Well, you know why there wasn't a mugshot. Because they didn't want to allow him to use it like Donald Trump used his mugshot in Georgia. Know what I'm saying? Oh, did I mention that Harry McDougal out of Georgia is the same lawyer that got Fannie Willis fired? He got her taken out of that case over there. And she's going after Trump. Did I say anything about that? Did I get around to that? Arrest. Arkansas Attorney General Tim Griffin said Thursday his office has obtained warrants to arrest two men, including paper ballot advocate Conrad Reynolds, on a misdemeanor charge related to the November 2024 general election. Well, where's the mugshot, Timmy? Letitia James Griffin, where's your mugshot, pal? Reynolds, a retired U.S. Army colonel who lost bids for Republican nomination in Arkansas' 2nd Congressional District in 2014 and 2022, when it was stolen from him. Oh, they left that part out. And Dustin Black are accused of violating Arkansas Code 7-1-103, which prohibits electioneering within 100 feet of the entrance to a building where voting is taking place or being there for any purpose except to enter or leave the building. But yeah, that's not really what it says, because we read to you what it says. But I guess Rafael Escalera Montodo, the reporter here, maybe he didn't actually read the law and just took their word for it. Reynolds of Conway is the leader of a group that has been advocating for counties to switch from voting machines to hand-marked and hand-counted ballots. On November 5th, 2024, Reynolds and Black were seen near the entrance of the Batesville Community Center asking voters questions, according to affidavits by an investigator with Griffin's office supporting warrants for their arrest. Kathy Drew, the Independence County election coordinator, made contact with Reynolds and Black once while they were within 30 feet of the entrance to the building, and again 30 minutes to an hour later in the same area, according to the affidavit. No, that's weird. Because Letitia James Griffin didn't mention that in his press release the other day, did he? No, he didn't. During the second interaction, which Drew recorded on video, Reynolds told her, quote, he could conduct exit polling within a 100-foot radius, unquote, according to one of the affidavits. Yeah, he certainly could. The Supreme Court is really clear that exit polling is not electioneering. Oh, there's plenty more. There is plenty more, and it's coming up as the Doc Washburn Show continues right here on 101.1, The Answer. Hey, when your AC breaks down to the Arkansas heat, or pretty soon, if your heating breaks down to the Arkansas cold, who are you going to call? Tell you who I call. My buddy, Brian Knight, owner of Knight's Service Company. They've been guarding your comfort in Cabot and Central Arkansas for over 25 years. I trust them. This family-owned HVAC business built their reputation on Christian principles, honest service, and putting customers first. Whether it's air conditioning, heating, or refrigeration, If it heats or cools in your home or business, they fix it or can install a new unit, residential or commercial. Just ask about their list of commercial customers who trust them with their business and have been doing it for years. All makes and models. Fast, affordable, and honest solutions. Knight's Service Company, guarding your comfort for over 25 years. Visit knightsservicecompany.com. That is KNIGHTS, servicecompany.com. One 101.1 The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues. Shout off and talk back 501-401-1011. So we're taking a look at the DMGAS, their coverage of the story. Of course, they won't have any coverage on what happened today until probably tomorrow morning's paper at the earliest, because the local paper is an antiquated form of getting the news out. But anyway. So we left off with Independence County Election Coordinator Kathy Drew, according to the affidavit, saying she had on video Conrad Reynolds telling her he could conduct exit polling within a 100-foot radius. Well, of course he can. It's not electioneering. Supreme Court has already talked about that years ago. The investigator wrote, an additional witness, Caroline Goodwin, who was working the front desk just inside the polling location, stated that she did observe Reynolds, who was holding a clipboard, talking to voters as they entered the building. Better have proof, Ms. Goodwin. Better have proof, Timmy. I guess they don't have proof because they didn't charge Conrad with electioneering. Anyway, Goodwin, according to the investigator in the affidavit, also said she received a complaint that they were telling people how to vote. I guess not. They didn't charge Conrad with electioneering. Now, on the other hand, the investigator noted that young Mr. Black wore a lanyard that read official at the top, followed by paper ballots in the middle and paper ballot exit polls at the bottom. Griffin spokesman Jeff LeMaster said the case stemmed from a referral made by the State Board of Election Commissioners on February 24th. So why did it take them, March, April, May, June, July, August, September? Why did it take them 7.5 months to get around to filing charges? Let me guess. The reporter's not going to ask them. In a news release, Timmy Letitia James Griffin said, the evidence in this case includes a video of both men conducting exit polling approximately 30 feet from a polling site. This case and the misdemeanor warrants we obtained are about one thing: following the law. So Tim is lying through his teeth. We all know that's not what it's about. Because they've never prosecuted anyone else for exit polling people leaving a polling place, right? Because if they had, they would mention it, right? And of course, none of the reporters are going to ask them about it, right? Because when have you known a reporter to have intellectual curiosity? Conrad Reynolds' attorney, Chris Corbett, said in an interview the pair were not electioneering, but were instead conducting exit polls to compare official results from Independence County with their own poll. Corbett said, in no way, shape, or form were they trying to influence the election. It's an exit poll. Reynolds and Black had not at that time been arrested, but presented themselves in Independence County District Court this morning. And again, that is the DemGaz report from Rafael Escalera Montoro of San Juan, Puerto Rico. So, since he's from Puerto Rico, I mean, this guy's a U.S. citizen. I don't want anybody getting the wrong impression because, of his name. So we're glad he's here, but we wish he'd had a little bit more intellectual curiosity to ask Tim Griffin's office, so how many prosecutions have you done for exit polling? Has the state done, for that matter? More coming up straight ahead as the Doc Washburn Show continues. 101.1 The Answer. 101.1 The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues, where you can sound off and talk back at 501-401-1011. So, I mean, the coverage from somebody named Alex Keeneland over at KRK Channel 4 was even more ridiculous than the coverage in the newspaper, because this guy just took Attorney General Tim Griffin's word for everything. So, okay. That's not surprising. Let me talk to you about what Joe Hoft is saying, joehoft.com. Joe Hoft, the brother of Jim Hoft at the Gateway Pundit. His article came out today, exclusive. What's going on in Arkansas? Is Governor Sarah Sanders still MAGA? Well, guest post by Martell Maxim on joehoft.com. It all seems very connected and concerning. An extremely strange turn of events has many Arkansas MAGA loyalists and election experts puzzled. Unfortunately, many of the current policies and actions of the once great press secretary of President Trump and daughter of former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee appear to have gone off the rails, and we need to ask why. According to many, she's been behaving more like an enemy of MAGA, while simultaneously appearing to whitewash her actions by pretending to actively associate herself with President Trump and his agenda. Oh, you don't know the half of it, ma'am. She says, let's look at some details. In direct opposition to MAGA, under the direction and leadership of Governor Sanders, MAGA Republicans are being continually targeted and removed from the party via false accusations and rules. Yeah, we know a little bit about that, don't we? Eerily similar to what's happening in South Carolina and other states. Yeah, they're targeting people and kicking them out of county Republican committees in the state of Arkansas. I know some folks they've done that to. In stark contrast to common sense and doing what's right, an open sore in Arkansas is that Governor Sanders and others are violating their own rules by strongly supporting the Stone County Chair, Darren Waddles, to remain in power. Now, Waddles is admittedly close friends with Tai Shen Kuo, who was convicted and served time in federal prison for espionage against the United States on behalf of the Chinese Communist Party. Did you know about this? Unbelievably, Kuo was paroled into the home of Stone County Republican Chair Darren Waddles. Waddles also admittedly, inappropriately, texted a female student while he was a teacher. He was forced to resign from his teaching job, yet he remains in the party as the chair of the Stone County Republican Party. And they've got the link to the story. And they've got the link to details about this Chinese spy on YouTube from none other than 60 Minutes. Now, when's the last time 60 Minutes got bent out of shape about a communist from another country? Knock me over with a leaf. Additionally, they've got another link showing an accounting of how Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders appears to be creating false allegations against MAGA grassroots and removing them from the Arkansas Republican Party. I guess it's only a matter of time before she removes me. I'm a member in good standing of the Pulaski County Republican Committee. I can't believe they haven't taken me out yet. I just thought of how that sounded when I said I can't believe they haven't taken me out yet. I all of a sudden went back in time to when Bill Clinton was governor. And people had to say, I'm not suicidal, so if something happens, you know I didn't do it. Sarah said nice things about Bill Clinton. Anyway, where were we? Additionally, this link, and it links to arkansasgop.info, will show you an accounting of how Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders appears to be creating false allegations against MAGA grassroots and removing them from the party. From this, it's easy to understand how her actions appear to have ironically orchestrated many other violations of trust that continue to grow daily in the minds of MAGA in Arkansas. As mentioned before, Governor Sanders puts on a public face by associating with President Trump while simultaneously allowing Arkansas State Board of Election Commissioners to persecute and target those who support paper ballots, which is what President Trump wants. Yet she rides President Trump's coattails and posts photos of herself with President Trump to convince many Trump supporters in Arkansas that she's still closely aligned with the president. Sadly, she does this while simultaneously targeting his MAGA supporters and ignoring his election integrity executive orders. For example, the one county in Arkansas, Searcy County, that used hand-counted paper ballots was maliciously targeted by the State Board of Election Commissioners, resulting in decertifying Searcy County's election commissioners. And there's the link to the article on that over at Arkansas Advocate. Truth, however, eventually prevailed when the commissioners appealed and the public showed up en masse to protest. The State Board of Election Commissioners was then forced to walk back their 14-year ban on each of the commissioners. The State Board, led by Governor Sanders' hand-picked young Secretary of State, Cole Jester, has harassed Searcy County endlessly, even as they did a paper ballot election that scored 100% on their audit. In another election-related circumstance witnessed by many, Governor Sanders voted against closing the Arkansas primaries. She also voted against a person having to be a Republican to run as a Republican candidate. Additionally, she appears to have whipped the legislative vote to get her puppet, chair of the Arkansas Republican Party, Joseph Wood, installed as state party chair, who then ignored the results of the state convention. What came next is even more unbelievable. As it turns out, the state convention succeeded in voting to close Republican primaries to only Republican voters and instituted other measures such as paper ballots. However, Governor Sanders, Chairman Joseph Wood, and the Republican Party leadership did not recognize the convention as legitimate because they did not get their desired outcome. Again, we need to ask why. Oddly enough, the state party rules declare that the state convention is the final authority in all party matters. That is a quote. Despite this, Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders has continued to act like the state convention never even happened. And she continues to ignore the will of the majority of the delegates. The final election-related blow contradicting the MAGA image of Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders is about to boil over. So she wrote this before the arraignment this morning, when Colonel Conrad Reynolds is expected to be indicted for election interference. Well, here's the crazy thing. A criminal indictment for loitering? Not for election interference, not for electioneering, but for loitering? Our Attorney General, Tim Griffin, Letitia James Griffin, is really looking ridiculous on this. But I digress. The charge is that he was too close to voters exiting a polling location while attempting to conduct an exit poll. And she links to an excellent overview of the entire situation from Joe Hoft. Top MAGA leaders are asking Governor Sarah Huckabee why Arkansas indicted Colonel Conrad Reynolds, a proponent of paper ballots. Well, I think we all know. Oh, so the article ends by saying all this brings up the big question: is Sarah Sanders being groomed to be the new Nikki Haley for 2028? We hope not. Well, what do you think? I mean, I've always been told that Sarah prefers D.C. to Arkansas. Oh, yes. Again, I said this a couple of days ago. I have a friend who was high up in the Trump administration, Trump's first term, who said that Trump, unbeknownst to most people who think Sarah did just a wonderful job as White House press secretary, he actually fired her and she refused to leave. Now, if you think that's an outrageous claim, think about it. Her last White House press conference was December 18th, 2018. She didn't leave until 6.5 months later, July 1st, 2019. Well, what was she doing? She wasn't doing daily press briefings. Trump even announced in January that he had weeks earlier ordered her to stop doing daily press briefings. What was she doing for almost 6.5 months if she wasn't doing daily White House press briefings like Kayleigh McEnany did almost every day? I mean, I tried to warn you, but I didn't have the money to get the message out. But when I was the challenger to Sarah in the Republican gubernatorial primary back in 2022, I tried to warn you. Her chief campaign consultant, a guy named Chip Saltzman out of Nashville, said in a newspaper interview, we need to face the facts that Trump lost to Biden in 2020 fair and square. Well, we all know that's not true. And more evidence comes out all the time that the thing was rigged. There's no way. You can't take all the bellwether counties in the country and lose to a guy that we refer to as Dementia Joe. There's no way. There's no way. But that's who your governor is, and that's who your attorney general is, who is doing the bidding of the governor. And so they go to all this trouble to charge Conrad Reynolds with loitering, and they're acting like that's some kind of a criminal offense when they've never, ever charged any exit pollers with loitering before. Oh, and yes, I mean, I think that the fact that Conrad Reynolds has been doing the Kernel of Truth show on 101.1 The Answer, Lo, these many moons, for a couple of years now. I mean, that makes him more of a journalist than a lot of these people that come on TV. The problem with TV journalists is so many of them don't have any intellectual curiosity. They're not going to ask Tim Griffin, hey, by the way, have you ever indicted anybody who's in exit polling for loitering before? It's not going to cross their minds. Oh, well. 501-401-1011 if you want to sound off and talk back. We got the story of a woman with the health department who says her free speech rights violated for being fired over her comments on Charlie Kirk. More coming up straight ahead as the Doc Washburn Show continues on 101.1 The Answer. I know health insurance can be confusing, but I also know somebody who can help you with it. Tammy Chase, my friend, owns an independent insurance agency in Maumelle. She actually takes the time to sit down with you in person and explain everything in plain English. I've had lunch with her, and I can verify for you that she knows how to speak plain English, that it's actually her first language. But I digress. Whether you're under 65 trying to figure out family health, dental, and vision coverage, or nearing Medicare age feeling overwhelmed by choices, Tammy Chase handles it all. She works with multiple insurance companies, so you're not limited to just one option. She finds what works for your situation and budget. She can help you sign up for Medicaid, too. But here's what really sets Tammy Chase apart. She doesn't just sign you up and then disappear. Tammy and her team are there start to finish. When enrollment periods come up, Tammy Chase helps you review and make changes, even with specialized plans like cancer, heart attack, and stroke coverage. If you're tired of feeling confused about insurance, visit TammyChaseInsurance.com. Trust me, having somebody local who actually cares makes all the difference. TammyChaseInsurance.com. One oh 101.1 The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues. We sound off and talk back at 501 401 1011. So this from the DMGAS, Nathan Ansell. Firing over Kirk comments violated free speech rights, health department official says in lawsuit. Well, a former Arkansas Department of Health official fired last month over reported social media comments about the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk has filed a lawsuit claiming the firing violated her free speech rights. They still haven't said bye to Felicia, have they? Felicia Branch, who our governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general all said over a month ago should be fired for celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Still has your job over a month later. Yo, what up with that, man? Anyway, Joy Gray was terminated September 15th from her job as branch chief of the health department's tobacco prevention and cessation program after the department received screenshots of her Facebook posts, including statements that Charlie Kirk, quote, was shot doing his evil in the public, unquote, and, quote, died for his cause, unquote, according to documents released to the Arkansas Democrat Gazette under Freedom of Information request. In the lawsuit filed late last week in federal court in Little Rock, Joy Gray contends that her speech consisted of political commentary on matters of public concern, made as a private citizen outside the scope of her job duties, and that the firing came amid a coordinated effort by senior state officials to punish her viewpoint and make an example of her. Well, Ms. Gray, if there was a coordinated effort to punish your viewpoint, don't you think they would have fired by Felicia over Bowen School of Law by now? Because they haven't. She also said she was not given adequate notice of the claims against her or sufficient opportunity to respond before she was fired. You know, I got to tell you something. If you're celebrating the death, the assassination of someone, I'm having a hard time feeling sorry for you. So, attorney Luther Suter of Little Rock, what, did he move his office from Saline County to Little Rock? The lawsuit was filed by Luther Suter, and the suit names 5 health department officials, including Secretary Renee Mallory and Don Adams, the chief of staff at the Arkansas Department of Health, as defendants. The suit, assigned to U.S. District Judge Lee Radofsky, requests a temporary order giving Joy Gray her job back and preventing the defendants from retaliating against her while the suit is pending. Also asks the judge to order the defendants to provide her a name-clearing hearing if they continue to publish or rely on stigmatizing accusations, and to bar the enforcement of any policy or practice used to punish viewpoint-based private citizen speech by employees of the Arkansas Department of Health. Well, I tell you what, she asked for it, she gets it. You know, you want to know about stigmatizing accusations? I got plenty of those for you, Ms. Joy Gray. Suit also asked for the defendants to be ordered to pay damages. Yeah, well, see, that's where people like me come in. Judge Rudofsky on Friday denied Gray's request for the temporary order, noting she had not provided an affidavit or other evidence to support her claims. Huh. Sucks to be her. I'm Doc Washburn. More coming up right here. 101.1 The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues. You can sound off and talk back. 501-401-1011. You know, I'm not an attorney. I've never taken any law classes in college. I'm not the son of an attorney, but I have certainly interviewed a lot of attorneys. I have certainly talked to a lot of attorneys. I've certainly read a lot of articles by attorneys. So I try to learn as much as I can about the law and about the way that our American judicial system works. And one of the things about the U.S. Supreme Court is that they tend to hear appeals from lower courts. And that's one of the things about the Arkansas Supreme Court also. They tend to hear appeals from lower courts. And a lot of times a Supreme Court, whether it is a U.S. Supreme Court or a state Supreme Court, well, first of all, they get way, way too many appeals. Most cases that come across their desks, that come over the transom, however you want to put it, they don't have time to deal with. But what can get their attention is what they call a case of first impression. Now, let me explain to you what that means, because I think this could be very illuminating when it comes to the state of Arkansas prosecuting Colonel Conrad Reynolds and Dustin Black. Dustin Black is being charged with electioneering, even though he was doing the same thing Colonel Reynolds was doing, exit polling. Colonel Reynolds was being charged with loitering for exit polling. Criminal charges. With a straight face, the Attorney General of Arkansas, Dustin sorry. I almost named a former AG. Gee, I wonder what it is about our current AG, Tim, Letitia James Griffin, that would remind me of a former one. Anyway, with a straight face, Tim Griffin is acting like this is a totally legit prosecution that he has nothing to do with. Again, his statement the other day said, well, look, we had some complaints from Independence County that went to the statewide elections commissions. And they looked into it, and they forwarded it to my office's electoral integrity unit. And so they decided to refer criminal charges to the prosecuting attorney of Independence County. Yeah, that's a ticket. Yeah. I got nothing to do with it. Okay, fine, whatever. So a case of first impression with the Supreme Court it's a novel idea. It's like, well, we've never seen a case like this before. And our job is to interpret the Constitution. And so, yeah, we'll take this case. So, is Tim Griffin hoping for Conrad Reynolds and Dustin Black to be found guilty in Independence County, so when they appeal to the state Supreme Court, the state Supreme Court will have the opportunity to decide whether exit polling counts as loitering? So I'm telling you right now, this would be a case of first impression. the state of Arkansas has never prosecuted anyone ever for exit polling outside a polling place in any of the 75 counties of the natural state. It has never happened before. So, is Tim Griffin hoping to go to the Supreme Court of Arkansas? And who knows? Who knows? If they were to rule against Conrad Reynolds and Dustin Black, is Tim hoping to make his mark with a first impression to go to the U.S. Supreme Court? Justices Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, Amy Coney Barrett, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, Ketanji Brown Jackson, the wise Latina Sonia Sotomayor, and Elena Kagan. Is Tim Griffin hoping to make his mark? Hoping not for his name to go down in infamy for being stupid enough to bring a criminal charge of loitering for exit polling and a criminal charge of electioneering for exit polling, but hoping for someone on the Arkansas Supreme Court and or the U.S. Supreme Court to say, this Attorney General from Arkansas, he's brilliant. Of course exit polling is loitering. No, it doesn't matter how many times the networks have done it. Doesn't matter how many times Frank Luntz over at Fox News has done it. It's loitering, I tell you. Now, see, the way I look at it, Timmy Letitia James Griffin, he might be able to make that case stick with Ketanji Brown Jackson on the U.S. Supreme Court. But, well, see, here's the other thing. If she's the only one who thinks it makes sense, then they're not going to take the case. No, you got to get, 3 or 4 justices to say, okay, we'll take this case. Because the rest of them would laugh him out of the courtroom. But again, Timmy is like, oh, no, I'm not doing this. No. This one complained to that one, and this one referred that to this one, and they got referred to that one, and I'm just the referee. I'm just the umpire. I'm just calling balls and strikes, and nobody's buying it, Tim. Tim, you hear me? Nobody's buying your lies, pal. We all know why you're doing it. We all know, man. You want to be governor. If you cross Sarah, it's not going to happen. That's what's up. So, nobody's buying it. A case of first impression. Boy, I tell you what. Wouldn't that burnish his reputation? Wouldn't he make his mark going all the way to the Supreme Court, insisting that exit polling is loitering? I wonder. See, I'm old enough to remember the Democrat National Convention in Chicago in 1968 when Dan Rather got beat up on the floor of the convention by some of Mayor Daley's thugs just trying to ask questions. I wonder if he was loitering on the floor of the convention. Yeah, that's a ticket. These are the things you think of when you're confronted with just how ridiculous this whole thing is. Not gonna lie, I can't call it, fam. But we'll stick with it. we will definitely stick with it because it's important. If you're not going to stand for something, you fall for anything. What's your Attorney General standing for? What's the little fellow that Governor Sarah appointed to be Secretary of State? What is he standing for? What's Pastor Kim Hammer, state senator, who wants to be your Secretary of State and make sure that Arkansas continues to defy President Trump and the voting machines? What's he standing for? I think we all know, don't we? There's a lot of stuff to talk about today unrelated to this, and we're going to try to get to as much of it as we can between now and 6. If you'd like to sound off and talk back, number to call, 501-401-1011. The Doc Washburn Show continues, 101.1 The Answer. Hey, I want to tell you about the best-kept secret in American healthcare, something that Charlie Kirk found out about 6 years ago. And he took his phone out and did a video with his attorney up in the Chicagoland area. Not his attorney, his doctor. Sorry, I'm working 4 hours of sleep. Had to get up early this morning to go to Batesville for the arraignment of Colonel Conrad Reynolds. But I digress. I want to tell you about the best-kept secret in American healthcare, something that Charlie Kirk found out about 6 years ago, and he took his phone out, did a video with his doctor. Let me tell you all about it. Do you struggle with sinuses, allergies, dizziness, vertigo, blood sugar issues, fibromyalgia, eczema, psoriasis, even migraines? The Arkansas Upper Cervical Center might be able to help you. Here's how. Your skull weighs anywhere from 8 to 15 pounds. It rests on the atlas, the top bone of your spinal column, which only weighs 2 ounces. So it's easy for your atlas to get misaligned. An imbalance that causes your entire spinal column to kink up like a chain. When that happens, your central nervous system can't communicate with your body properly. I suffer from severe hay fever for weeks every spring and had migraines all my life. After I had my atlas adjusted, the hay fever and the migraines disappeared for good. Whatever you suffer from, do yourself a favor. Call my friends at the Arkansas Upper Cervical Center for a free consultation. The best way to remember is just remember their website, turnmypoweron.com. They've helped so many people that I know. Go to their website, turnmypoweron.com. 101.1 The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues, where you can sound off and talk back at 501-401-1011. Yeah, nobody has ever been prosecuted for exit polling in the state of Arkansas before the two guys that were arraigned this morning. It's just remarkable that your attorney general wants you to think, yeah, this is totally legit, no big deal, nothing out of the ordinary. No, I'm definitely not doing it to. Definitely not doing it to curry favor with the governor. No, not at all. Why'd you think that? So I want to share with you. From time to time, I look at the Twitter feed of Susan Crabtree. Now, she is the national political reporter for Real Clear Politics. And so she's got a quote from President Trump from yesterday when he awarded Charlie Kirk's Medal of Freedom in the ceremony with Charlie's widow. Susan Crabtree says President Trump says again that he doesn't think he's going to make it to heaven, but Charlie Kirk is already there. Trump marveled about how the skies cleared up for Charlie's beautiful Medal of Freedom ceremony in the White House Rose Garden. So here's the quote. Charlie testified to the greatness of America and to the glory of our Savior, with whom he now rests in heaven, and he is going to make heaven. I said, I'm not sure I can make it, but he's going to make it. He's there. He's looking down on us right now. So incredible. Look at this, how this turned out. This is supposed to be so dark and cloudy, talking about yesterday afternoon. Not dark and cloudy, is it? And look at that. How beautiful that is. There's no artist that can capture it as beautiful as it is today. Wow, it's amazing. So, may I make a suggestion to you? When a person says, I don't think I'm going to make it to heaven, that's a start. That's a start. Because if a person is aware of the fact that he is a sinner and doesn't deserve to go to heaven, that's a starting point. If you tell someone, Jesus loves you, who doesn't think he's ever done anything wrong, then what good are you doing him? Oh, great. Jesus loves me? Really? I don't have to change anything? Really? Donald J. Trump's come a long way. It hasn't been that many years ago that he said he couldn't think of anything that he would need to ask God forgiveness for. That's not the same guy that you're dealing with now. So, we are already commanded to pray for our leaders. Right? I mean, if you read the Bible, you're aware of that, right? So pray that God will give President Trump the grace to realize that he needs to repent of his sins and trust Jesus Christ for his salvation. Because he has gone from being someone who couldn't really think of anything he needed forgiveness for to someone who became friends with Charlie Kirk, a man who knew where he was going. And Donald Trump's like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to make it. Well, that's the most important thing. That is the most important thing. So take seriously, pray for our leaders, and pray for Donald J. Trump, who has come a long way. I'm telling you, the good news is not good news to you until you understand the bad news. I mean, I can say my only hope for heaven is the fact that God sent his only son to die on that cross for my sins. That's my only hope. He took the punishment I so richly deserved. But if I don't understand in the first place that I'm a sinner and I richly deserve punishment, I richly deserve to be the recipient of his unmitigated wrath forever, then I don't understand that I need the good news. I think Donald Trump now understands that he needs the good news. I think, well, it's just obvious. He's giving us a completely different narrative now than he was just a few years ago. It's the grace of God that anybody realizes, hey, maybe I don't make it. Well, then you need God's grace and mercy. It's a grace of God that a person comes to the point where he realizes that he needs God's grace and mercy. And there are so many false teachers around him. But Charlie Kirk told him the truth. And he's not the only one. If God's going to save him, he's going to save him regardless of how many false teachers are around him. Pray for our president. More coming up about Russiagate, about the coup attempts. A lot of stuff to talk about. Plus, as always, if you'd like to sound off and talk back, the number to call is 501-401-1011. The Doc Washburn Show continues in mere moments. 101.1 The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues where you can sound off and talk back. 501-401-1011. Chuck Grassley. Now, here's a guy older than Joe Biden, but sharp as a tack. And he is the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee. He's a guy that helped Donald Trump get a lot of judges, including Supreme Court justices, approved when he was chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee before. But anyway, he's talking about Timothy Tebow, not the football player, the FBI agent whose last name is spelled Thibault. It's French, and they pronounce it Tebow. Timothy Tebow, the anti-Trump agent of the FBI, who violated the Hatch Act, opened the Arctic frost investigation with other partisans, then gave the case to Jack Smith, who secretly subpoenaed Republican senators' phone records. He said, don't let legacy media fool you. Arctic frost was partisan from the start. So, the great Hans Mahncke, Mahncke, said the real reason from all of these hoaxes is not that not one of them was ever a legitimate inquiry that simply went off the rails. Every single one was orchestrated from the start. Crossfire Hurricane only began after they learned the Russia collusion smear was a Clinton campaign operation. The Ukraine impeachment scam launched the very morning after Robert Mueller's collapse in Congress. The COVID origin cover-up kicked in right after Anthony Fauci was told the virus was engineered. Same pattern every time. None of it was ever about finding the truth. These were anti-Trump operations from day one. Did you realize that? Is anybody else telling you about this? I don't think so. I don't think so. So I gotta beg to differ here. You've been hearing on the news about the War Department coming up with some new rules for journalists that want to cover what's going on at the Pentagon. And they're freaking out. They're all freaking out. The liberals, the conservatives, the AP, the networks, Fox News, Newsmax, everybody's like, nah. All right, well, let me tell you what the CEO of the Federalist, Sean Davis, and the editor-in-chief, Molly Hemingway, are saying. They got a statement on Department of War media access guidelines. And here's what they said. When other credentialed outlets and journalists spread lies about the Russia collusion hoax or the Covington kids hoax or the Kavanaugh rape hoax or the Ukraine impeachment hoax or the COVID-19 natural origin hoax or the peaceful, so-called peaceful, Black Lives Matter riots hoax, or the suckers and losers hoax. Yeah, lying about President Trump saying something like that about the military, or the Hunter Biden laptop hoax, or the Biden's brain is totally fine, you guys hoax. The Federalists fearlessly reported the truth. Corrupt corporate journalists published lies and regurgitated regime propaganda and were given awards. We published facts and the truth, and the U.S. federal government responded by waging a global war of illegal censorship against the Federalist. They profited from lies while we were punished for reporting the truth. Where were these self-styled First Amendment defenders when we were illegally censored and targeted for debunking deep state lies and hoaxes? Many of them not only refused to defend us, but cheered the illegal censorship efforts against us. NBC News, for example, colluded with big tech to demonetize and deplatform us for criticizing the government and the corrupt corporate news media. So you'll have to forgive us. You'll have to forgive our skepticism of corporate media's ostensible new love of press freedoms and the First Amendment. We actually read through the new Department of War media access guidelines, and we found 0 new restrictions on the ability of journalists to report on or criticize the government. Many corporate journalists eager to grandstand will claim otherwise without evidence, but we will show you what the actual document says. Quote, "Nothing in this document requires you to waive any constitutional rights. This, in brief, constitutes a description of Department of War policies. Members of the news media are not required to submit their writings to the Department of War for approval. This, in brief, and its appendices address Department of War policy and the potential basis for such a determination, and do not prohibit you as a credential holder from engaging in constitutionally protected journalistic activities such as investigating, reporting, or publishing stories. My signature represents my acknowledgement and understanding of such Department of War policies and procedures, even if I do not necessarily agree with such policies and procedures. Signing this acknowledgement does not waive any rights I may have under law," unquote. Now, those are actual facts. And as is usually the case, we are likely the first outlet to report them. We look forward to eagerly covering the Pentagon, both on site and from a distance, with the same fearlessness and courage and devotion to the truth that we have exhibited since we were created. And if the new guidelines result in fewer professional con artists and media hoaxers roaming the halls looking for new lies to peddle, so be it. Yeah, so forgive me if I can't get all bent out of shape because all these networks are all bent out of shape. Forgive me if I can't feel the pain of Jennifer Griffin over Fox News, who Pete Hegseth said a few weeks ago was always one of the worst. Now, he wasn't allowed to say that when he was a co-worker of hers at Fox News. But she is. She always takes up for the deep state. Oh, she has her sources at the Pentagon. But they're not in line with what President Trump and Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, are trying to do. So I'm sure Fox News is making a big deal about this, even now, as Brett Baier, Jennifer Griffin, and who knows who else. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Does Fox News do some good things? Sure. But overall, are they controlled opposition? You better believe it. No, I'll give you an example. The The Cracker Barrel scandal of a couple of months ago. Fox News wanted you to think the scandal was people were upset about them changing the logo, and that's it. They didn't want you to know that Cracker Barrel management has been pushing DEI policies for 20 years. They didn't want you to know that Cracker Barrel has been a corporate sponsor of all ages gay pride events for 20 years. They didn't want you to know that when gay pride parade time came around in Nashville, one of their Cracker Barrels there had rainbow-colored rocking chairs out front. No. Fox News is telling you how dangerous Zohran Mamdani will be if he gets elected mayor of New York City. But why? Why are they saying he's dangerous? Oh, well, you see, he's a Marxist. He's a socialist. He's a communist. Yeah? What else? No, that's it. That's all. Oh, nothing about him being a jihad-supporting Muslim? Nothing about him being a big fan of Hamas? Nope. Can't talk about that, Doc. Oh, I see. They're controlled opposition, so no wonder they've got a problem with this. No wonder. So, John Solomon, justthenews.com. John Solomon has a new article out. Congress collected 30 million lines of phone data in Trump January 6 probe, raising civil liberty concerns. You think? Again, Hans Mahnke says in response, they raided his home and tore it apart. They combed through every campaign email. They leaned on his allies to get them to say something, anything damaging. Now, we learned they even secretly mapped 30 million lines of phone data to trace links between MAGA supporters and the Trump White House. And after all, they still found nothing. Donald Trump is easily the most vetted human being in history. The fact that he's standing stronger than ever before is nothing short of remarkable. Yeah, this is the same FBI. This is the same FBI who said, hey, we better try to infiltrate those Catholic churches where the pro-lifers are. Remember? And Christopher Wray said, oh, well, that was a kind of a rogue memo done out of our Richmond, Virginia FBI office. No, we denounced that. We declaimed that. No, that was the. What if I suggested to you that he was lying under oath? They see people of faith as the enemy. So pray for Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, because it's not the easiest thing in the world to just go in there and try to clean out the deep state, is it? No. I've got plenty more. I've got plenty more coming up. We'll try to squeeze as much of it as we can in before we get to 6 o'clock. The Doc Washer Show continues right here on 101.1 The Answer. 101.1 The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues. Sound off and talk back. 501 401 1011. Well, we got breaking news from the governor's office. So the White House put out a tweet earlier today saying Democrats now want to block the president from funding our troops and protecting vulnerable Americans with tariff revenue, all while keeping the government shut down to push free health care for illegal aliens. Once again, Democrats put America last. And lo and behold, our own governor here of the natural state, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, responds saying, it's bad enough Democrats refuse to come to the table to help open our government, but now they want to intentionally withhold pay from our troops. It's hard to imagine a more cynical ploy to harm America. My goodness, the comments, the responses to Sarah. The first one says, seeing all of your posts is like watching the flying monkeys in The Wizard of Oz. You can't deflect from your corruption and political persecution and prosecution of a great patriot, Colonel Reynolds, who, unlike you, is fighting for hand-marked paper ballots. The next one says, why are you weaponizing the system against Colonel Reynolds? Thought you were anti-establishment, pro-Trump. My friend Brian Norris, running for Secretary of State, says, what's bad is what's happening in our own state with Colonel Reynolds. The next one says, I'd much prefer seeing a post where you have done the right thing to rectify this grievous error, referring to the lawfare that's being done against the decorated Army colonel facing criminal charges in Arkansas for exit polling. The next one says, you are Arkansas last, buying a rock pile with no water, then telling us we'll love the waterless prison you want to build there. Maliciously denying ST-26 and HT-70 representation in the upcoming session. Vast majority of your posts on Twitter aren't about Arkansas or our pure PR fluff. You know what he's talking about? She is determined to build a prison in Franklin County where there's no water. There's not enough water to supply a single one-family home over there, much less a huge prison. Definitely not. Oh, my goodness. Here's another one. You know what's worse than that, Governor Huckabee Sanders? That you've said nothing in support of Aaron Spencer. Now, Aaron Spencer was the fellow who woke up in the middle of the night. His 14-year-old daughter was gone. He took off and found a guy in his 60s who had kidnapped her, a guy who already had all kinds of charges filed against him for what he had already done to the little girl. And he shot the man in self-defense. He's being prosecuted for it. In Lonoke County, it's outrageous. It's a travesty. And he's running for sheriff. I got to get him on the show. We need to interview him. Okay, here's another response to Sarah Huckabee Sanders. One more thing, Governor. How about looking into your Attorney General, Tim Griffin, and his acts of RICO by paying another elected official here in Arkansas who is his campaign manager? Oh! Here's another one. What's going on with all the illegal truck drivers driving through Arkansas? Yeah, that's interesting. Because somebody else has a video here from American Truckers United. Alarming. An exhausted non-citizen truck driver from Mexico was found asleep on the side of the interstate in Clarksville, Arkansas. The driver violated hours of service rules, was driving in personal conveyance mode, could not speak English, had no work visa, only a B1/B2 tourist visa. What's insane? He's 700 miles from the border, hauling a load from Mississippi to Oklahoma, not a cross-border shipment. This is straight-up cabotage violation, illegal for foreign drivers. Arkansas Highway Police, zero training on this, zero. They didn't even question the border crossing card or why he's running domestic loads. Even worse, the Arkansas Highway Police, their chief actively worked with the Arkansas Trucking Association against legislation in this year's legislative session that would have banned the use of B1, B2 tourist visas for truck drivers in the state of Arkansas. If this happened in Oklahoma, ICE would have been called immediately, but Arkansas is not cooperating with ICE. What? Ho! Arkansas is not cooperating with ICE? So they just dropped him at a hotel with a slap on the wrist, warning for English proficiency. This is a massive safety risk. Exhausted illegal drivers on our roads, wake up America. Who's protecting our highways? Well, if what American Truckers United are saying, certainly Arkansas Highway Police are not. What on earth? I wonder if anybody from Arkansas Democrat Gazette or the TV station news operations are going to ask our governor about the illegal truckers in our state. How about that? Here's one guy said, so what are you doing about it, Sarah? Or doing about anything? You are turning Arkansas into a sanctuary state. What are you doing to stop illegals from pouring in? They're already everywhere. They're driving up costs on everything and driving down pay for Arkansans. Garbage. Yeah. Another one said, paper-only election system. Nothing else matters. Another one says, we want paper ballots, Governor. Man, oh man, oh man. Yeah, I don't think this is going the way she wants it to go. Word is getting out, Sarah. Word is getting out, Letitia James, Tim Griffin. Yeah, we're not playing. We're not playing. I'm Doc Washburn. See you tomorrow at 4:06 right here. God